almost 15 in the fields of electromechanical maintenance and civil construction work. 2002, Demeco Briquetting, and have successfully marketed the products worldwide network of dealers covering Europe, Southeast Asia, Africa, India, Pakistan, North. Our vision is to know no 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 fan no machine no ton no machines such as no of UK and Japan and Pinke of Austria. In fact, Demeco have had a joint venture agreement with Shimada of UK for the technical collaboration. No Demeco has no fuel producing machinery to the Sri Lanka market as well, especially to be used for tea dryers and steam boilers. Apart from the experience and information gathered from the past, Demeco is devoted to do continuous research and development work, seeking to be the best equipment manufacturer in this field. In most modern factories, the raw material is brought in and stored for weeks before use, hence maintaining a minimum buffer stock that could be used during the off-seasons or rainy weather. This area generally comes under a roof covering. When the raw material is delivered, normally it has a moisture content of up to 35% or more. And it's the factory people's duty to accept or reject any stocks that contain a higher moisture content. The initial drying takes place when the material is stored under the roof for several weeks before being used. Finally, the partially wet material would be moved into the wet material bin, or in certain factories, to a wet material pit, manually, or in the case of very large volumes, by using earth-moving equipment. From the wet material bin or the pit, the raw material would be transferred to the raw material cleaner using this screw, not driven by a motorized system. The raw material screener normally is a rotating drum consisting of the required size of mesh to sieve the correct size of particles for the rest of the process. The oversized particles are not conveyed into the next stage of the process, but is collected separately and could be recycled in the process after sending it through a crusher or a hammer mill for the purpose of size reduction. From the material screener, the correct size of particles are sent into a large bin or a pit for temporary storage until it's been conveyed to the next stage of the process. Now, the raw material will be transferred to the dryer, normally a flash dryer, and in certain cases, normally drum dryers are used for drying the raw material to maintain a predetermined moisture content. Main content in this process of producing high-density briquettes is very important. Results are to be achieved at the end of the process. From the dryer, the materials are conveyed into the dried material bin and would be temporarily stored until it's used for the final stage of the process. Now, the material will be transferred into the overhead conveyor using a vertical bucket elevator for the purpose of distributing the dried raw material to the extruders, which are also known as briquetting machines that are placed right below. The excess raw material running through this overhead conveyor would be redirected to the dried material bin for recirculation. Material is fed into the extruders by gravity through a vertical duct feeding arrangement. The extruders are normally installed in a row or in duplicate parallel to each other, depending on the number of machines and available space. After the raw material is processed in the extruder into briquettes, they fall onto the belt conveyor below and is taken away to the stacking area. This belt conveyor is normally a fairly long one and is called a cooling belt as well. This is the bucket elevator mentioned in H above. This is the excess material returning conveyor or belt as mentioned in H above. All the equipment installed in the briquetting plant are controlled through a main electrical control panel. In most cases, each extruder will also have separate control panels in addition to the main control panel. Finally, the finished product could be sent for packing after a further delay for cooling, approximately 24 to 48 hours, depending on the climatic conditions of the location. The packed packs of briquettes, commonly in 5 kgs and 10 kgs, strapped and shrink-wrapped, are now stacked on pallets and put in containers for export. Equipment required for this process, dependent on the type of biomass material used, will include the following: a hammer mill, complete with filter and cyclone, drying equipment, conveyors and screw feeds, storage bins, wet and dry, packing equipment, exhaust fans, electrical control panel, cutting system for the briquettes, and adequate 3-phase electrical supply. The cost of a plant varies depending on the facilities and equipment already at hand and drying requirements of the raw material to be used. Among the state-of-the-art equipment introduced by Demeco Enterprises is the Demeco Biomass Briquetting Machine for the production of high-density fuel briquettes manufactured in Sri Lanka. Biomass briquettes are a source of green and renewable energy. It's the simplest solution for the fossil fuel crisis and global warming. General specifications of the Demeco Biomass Briquetting Machine. Capacity 400 to 600 kgs per hour. Varies according to type of raw material and input power. Main motor 30 to 45 kilowatts. Voltage and speed to meet exact customer requirements. Agitator motor 0.25 to 1 kilowatt depending on the raw material and machine capacity. Mold heaters 6 kilowatts. Thermocouple and temperature controller included. Transmission through V-belts and pulley arrangement. Speed 450 to 750 revolutions per minute depending on the raw material and capacity of machine. Profile of molds: cylindrical, hexagonal, square or octagonal. Size of briquette 55 mm to 65 mm, measured across 2 parallel sides. Raw material: biomasses with lignocellulose 2 to 6 mm particles, moisture content 6 to 8%. Controlling system via electrical control panel provided with machine. Demeco has been designing and manufacturing other machinery and equipment as well, apart from the machinery and equipment required for the briquetting industry. Among them are the interlocking paving stone making machines, incinerators, material handling equipment, and raw material conveying systems. Our services include the construction of steel factory buildings, highway bridges, installation of machinery and equipment, safely transporting and shifting heavy equipment, and the production of flow conveyors and controlling and monitoring systems. For details, contact Demeco Enterprises, 72A, Devala Road, Papiliana, Burlaskamua, 10290, Sri Lanka, or log on to www.demecosl.com.